Beside the Palm, Season 2, Episode 5.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beside the Palm. Today we have with us Jeff Hoover. Jeff was a former assistant and then associate organist. You are, as I call, keeper of the archives now. You give tour guides at St. Luke's, and you've singing in the Chancel Choir since, I'll let you tell us when.
Well,
welcome,
actually,
Jeff.
Since you brought that up, thank you. Since you brought it up, 8 weeks from tomorrow will mark 55 years since I joined the choir.
Wow.
The first choir rehearsal in October of 1965 was October 7th, and it just so happens that in 2020, the first Wednesday in October will be October 7th, so it'll be precisely the 55th anniversary of my walking into the St. Luke's choir room for the first time.
Wow, that's amazing.
Freaks me out. I was 17.
Wow. Well, let's start with that. So tell us about what brought you to St. Luke's and how, you've been involved in so many ways at the church and served so many different things.
Up until about age 8, my family lived in Houston, and we did actually go to St. Luke's in the early 50s. And I have a picture of me posted, and my sister and my cousin posted in the Houston Chronicle, where we took attendance records in children's choir. Can you imagine the Houston Chronicle today writing an article and publishing it about kids taking attendance records?
Yeah.
But that would be in the early 50s. And then we moved away right about the time I turned 8. And so we were gone. I was gone for a full decade. Then when I graduated high school, I came back to Houston to go to college at Rice. So then yes, go ahead.
So when you started that, was that at Lamar, or was that after?
No, we were in what is now the Fellowship Hall.
Okay, that was then. Okay.
That much had been built by that time, but the current sanctuary had not yet been built. But when I came back from San Antonio after 10 years, then St. Luke's master plan had been completed and the sanctuary was in existence. So I was going to visit churches because I'd been gone for a decade and I was only 8 when I left. So I didn't particularly have that kind of loyalty to St. Luke's at that point. So I thought I'd visit around, but since I'd been to St. Luke's before, I decided to visit there first. And I just never got around to visiting any place else.
Yeah.
Still haven't.
Well, so tell us about some of the things you've been involved in, like kind of work-wise,
St. Luke's?
Yeah.
St. Luke's wise? Well, I just started out as a volunteer choir member, and I was such a novice that when I walked into the sanctuary for the first time for the first night's choir rehearsal, I had never seen an organ that had more than 2 keyboards. I didn't know they made such things. And it never dawned on me that it was a pipe organ. I couldn't figure out how you could push a key down here and have a valve open across the room somewhere and have air blow up through a pipe and get a sound that wouldn't be such a lag that it would never work. So I figured it was a giant electronic organ. Months later, I discovered it was a real pipe organ. So I was just a volunteer. I was also a college student, so I wasn't that kind of active, but boy, did the music at St. Luke's grab my attention. And of course, the associate organist in that era was our Rob Landis. Can you believe that? I've known Rob 55 years.
Wow.
In 8 weeks, it'll be 55 years. He was barely 20 when I joined the choir. So I really wasn't terribly active, because then after college, I went to dental school. And after that, I was in the Navy for 2 more years. So there was that period of time when I was away from St. Luke's.
Right.
And then I returned after my military time. And that's when I started beginning to think, well, I'd like to learn to play that instrument. And so I began to take lessons from the organist at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting fact. In the whole 55 years I've been there, there have been only 2 choir directors and 2 principal organists.
That's pretty amazing.
Associate organists have come and gone. But the principal organist and the choir director have been only 2 of each.
Yeah,
and that's what church can say that, really.
Yeah, not many. Had you had any piano experience before wanting to learn the organ, or no?
I had a year of piano when I was in the 4th grade. That's all.
Wow.
And we had a spinet piano in my house, and we had a Methodist hymnal. Used to drive my mom and dad crazy because I could only play hymns full loud on the piano. But I had taken clarinet in high school, and so I could read both clefs. I knew how to decipher what notes on the on the keyboard.
Wow. So what about beyond music? Tell us about anything about the archives, or being your, one of our tour guides, or anything you want to talk about with that stuff.
All of that is fun, and I enjoy doing the tours. And I guess at this point, I do have more of a history than most of the people that are in St. Luke's, even members, let alone visitors. Typically, it's new members or visitors who go on the tours, and it's fun to kind of rattle off the history, because St. Luke's is such an amazing church. Well, but the little fun things like, why is it called St. Luke's? And did you know that the position of our steeple, our spire on our church, is intentionally set to be right in the center of Westheimer if you're coming from the Galleria? And all of these little miniature factoids that people just kind of enjoy. And then I have a picture of the church that was taken from a helicopter. It was in the era before drones.
Yeah.
Shows the church soon after it was finished, and that huge tree in front of the church was this little sapling, and there was mostly no trees on the property at all. And those little kind of things are always fun to share with the new members and visitors.
Yeah, I remember Grace and I went on one of those tours with you right after we got there. I'd recommend it. Even if you have been to St. Luke's in a while, it'd be good to go, well, when we're offering them again, just as a refresher. There's a lot of things to learn. Maybe that's something you can do. You can do a virtual tour of St. Luke's if you're bored.
We had been talking about that before the shutdown, before the worldwide epidemic. Yeah. So it's still on the table that we might get around to doing that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. So this interview is particularly unique because you're the first person who has held my position that I've interviewed. So, because I sort of forced you into retirement, didn't I, when I came around?
No, you've relieved me. I tried to retire when I turned 65, and that was in December of 2012. And I did. At least I sort of retired. And you may recall that there were some other candidates who served in the position as associate organist.
Right.
It turns out on an interim basis, but various things didn't work out. So finally, Rob said to me, this is more trouble than it's worth. How about if I just do everything, but when I need to be away or on vacation, would you just sub for me? So that's the position I held from 2013 until your arrival.
Yeah. What was
it wasn't a titled position, but I just filled in.
Yeah. What was your favorite part or the most rewarding thing about our position?
Well, I could remind the audience, the viewer, that I'm just a dentist. And the very idea that a dentist would find himself on an organ of that caliber in a church of this grandeur with a choir of this size on television. I never played the organ that I wasn't on television. And I played with orchestra. I mean, how could I name any one thing? It's just beyond thrilling that such a thing evolved. And I never applied for the job. I didn't audition for the job. I just evolved into the job. It's great. I mean, and Lord knows there's plenty of opportunities they had to fire me, and probably plenty of reason too, but they never did. So
yeah. Well, so you said you've played in a lot of concerts, and I'm sure you've been involved in just as many, if not more, in the choir. Do you have any favorites that come to mind that you've been a part of in your many years here?
I would say yes, and clearly the St. Luke's premiere of the Invictus of Howard Goodall has to be it. And the organ part is not big, but there is an organ part, and I got to play it in that huge room. And you may have seen pictures, we were full to the top row of the balcony, and it was amazing, that experience. But
Yeah.
St. Luke's Choir, Chancel Choir, has also sung the full Bach B minor Mass, not once, but twice with orchestra. What choir does that? You know, it's a 2-hour work by itself. And so it's like, those are amazing experiences that we only get at St. Luke's.
Yeah. Yeah, Invictus seems to be a highlight for many people. I remember Devin was saying the same thing last week. I'm kind of bummed that Grace and I just missed it by, I think, a year or less. I don't even think I'd heard about it, because it was not long after I moved here. Otherwise, I would have liked to have come, at least, even as just a visitor.
It was thrilling. Absolutely thrilling.
Yeah, that's really cool. We sort of touched on it a little while ago. Do you have any favorite little-known facts about St. Luke's that you'd want to share?
Well, I mentioned one is, why is it called St. Luke's? Why isn't it called?
I remember I asked you that on the tour.
Road Methodist Church or River Oaks Methodist Church. And the history, as I understand it, is names like that were under consideration. But Dr. Fleming, who was the founding pastor, sort of felt like River Oaks Methodist Church sounded a little too silk stocking. And so they also preferred something a little bit more liturgical than Westheimer Road Methodist Church. And so they decided to go with the Gospels, and Luke was the only Gospel whose name hadn't already been taken in use.
Process of elimination.
Process of elimination. So we therefore became St. Luke's Methodist Church. It wasn't United Methodist Church at that time, but just St. Luke's Methodist Church.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think that was like probably the one of one or two questions I asked on the tour, because I was just curious too. It's one of those things I think people just you would never even really think about, like just question it, but it's got a little interesting history. So you were saying that you're just the dentist. So obviously being the associate organist or assistant organist wasn't your full-time job. Do you want to tell us kind of a little more about what your profession was before retiring and what made you go into that field?
In real life? Yes, I don't mind. Yes, I was, and I suppose I still am a dentist, although at this point I'm a retired dentist. And I don't have any family members who were dentists, but at one point during my college time, I had a summer job at a dental clinic, and that was my first exposure to it. And one day my mom and dad said, well, have you ever thought about being a dentist? And the answer was no. But I looked into it and changed my curriculum at Rice to become pre-dental, and applied to dental school, and lo and behold, I got in. And where I worked in that summer, one of the dentists there did root canals, and I thought that was fascinating. And you know what? This many years later, I still do think it's interesting. And so I almost knew before I went to dental school that I would become an endodontist, which is a root canal specialist. And so I did that after 4 years of college, and there's 4 years of dental school, and then I was in 2 years in the military, then there's 2 years in post-grad school to become a specialist in root canals. And so eventually I became a real dentist. Wow. And I don't regret it. To this day, I find it interesting. Yeah.
That's fabulous.
I don't do it, but it's intellectually interesting to me.
Yeah. And you were talking about, before we started our interview here, you've done root canals on many a church member or choir members, let alone church members.
Oh yes, that number is also up in the 30s. I won't name names, but I actually kept a list of how many St. Luke's choir members and also St. Luke's staff members I'd done root canals on personally. Yeah. And in fact, the number is so high that there would be churches who, as Sid might say, they would kill to have a choir that size. I have done root canals on that many St. Luke's choir members.
Yeah.
It's well up in the 30 or 40 members of our choir. And then there's also a lot of church staff on whom I've done root canals as well. Yeah. And you know what? Most of them are still speaking to me.
That's good. I was going to say, yeah, you would be in a unique position to, do a root canal on, I don't know, Friday, and then on Sunday after the postlude, check in on them and see how they're doing.
I have an amazing story on that. As a root canal specialist, you have to be available for emergencies. So one day I had to see an emergency on a Saturday,
Oh, wow.
And the patient was just so grateful that I may have told you that story during the tour, but the patient was so grateful that I saw him on a Saturday. And because he was supposed to be in a wedding that afternoon, I'm thinking, I'm supposed to play a wedding this afternoon. So I made the casual comment, where would that be? And he said, what, at this Methodist church over here on Westheimer. So lo and behold, I did his root canal in the morning, and then I played the organ in which he was the wedding that same afternoon.
Wow.
All in the same day. And after the wedding was over, I found him in the hall of the church, and I said, well, how are you feeling? And I'm sitting there holding my organ music, and I'm in a robe and thinking, well, did I just let a church organist do my root canal?
Right. Wow. I think you might be the only person that can tell a story like that. I never heard that one. You haven't told me that. So in addition to all, I think you said tour a minute ago. In addition to all this, you love to travel, and you've gone to on very interesting trips from what I remember. Do you have any highlights? Your favorite trips that you went on?
Well, yeah. Where does one start? I guess maybe the grandest trip was when I flew to London on the Concorde, and then sailed home on the QE2, and then we took the Orient Express through Europe in between them. Those are just huge highlights to me. But there's just so many marvelous things to do. Some of my favorite memories was having lunch on board the Orient Express in the wintertime as we drove through the Alps. I mean, you're having some of the best food in all of Europe in the finest setting with scenery out the window that's like unbelievable, and fabulous wines. You know, travel like that is just amazing.
Yeah, there was, my little follow-up questions here. Grace said to ask, was there something about dinner on the ocean floor that you had done?
Yes, up in Canada, not Nova Scotia. I'll have to think of it later. But just like the dry cleaners, like my brain doesn't always give me same-day service. So at any rate, but yes, there's a place up in Nova Scotia where at low tide, you go out and have a meal, and it was filet mignon and lobster. And I mean, it was beautifully prepared and all that on the dry ocean floor, which, 8 hours later is going to be 25 feet underwater because the tides, this is that part of the country, part of the world, part of the planet where the tides are the greatest.
Right.
And so, yes, we went up to Nova Scotia and had dinner on the ocean floor.
Wow.
Yeah. Lobster and filet mignon.
Surf and turf, my favorite.
With paired wines and even paired beer.
Wow. That's where I want to be right now.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. I hope this isn't a sore spot, but I think, didn't you have a cruise planned this summer that was, sorry. I'm just curious where you were supposed to go.
Not one, but two.
Oh, sorry.
In the spring, we were going to sail from Lima, Peru to Miami, but the main thing that was going to give us a Panama Canal crossing, which would have been really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And we also had booked a pre-trip excursion to Machu Picchu, but all of that went away. And then also we had a Baltic Sea cruise, like Tallinn, Estonia, and St. Petersburg, Russia, and Copenhagen, and all of those wonderful ports up there that was supposed to go in the middle of summer. And of course, that went away also.
Yeah. I know. I remember right when this I think it was like the first week or two of shutdown, we were talking and you were saying that, you had these cruises this summer, and we were certain that by then you'd be able to go on them, and here we are.
Ain't happening.
Well, if you do that tour next year or the year after and find yourself with like an extra ticket, I've always wanted to see Machu Picchu and all that. So
this would be our 25th or 26th cruise.
Wow. It's neat. Well,
it's one of my favorite things to do, I admit.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you doing these days to pass the time? Any reading or listen to any podcasts or watching movies or planning new vacations for the future?
Happily, I am very healthy, so I'm not really at great risk of other than my age. I don't have a bunch of other underlying factors, but I still have to be careful because of age. So mostly I'm staying home, and I love my house, so we work around the house a lot and work on the yard, but I'm not really doing a lot away from home, with the exception is we do go out to dinner on weekends. We do go, and I must say that's our big getaway. And it's not a risk-free proposition, but
yeah,
you got to live till you die. And
yeah.
I'm just not willing to just live under my desk for the next year and a half.
Yeah.
I'm thinking until we get a vaccine, or else people get the disease or die. One of those three things, that it's going to be middle of next year before those three things kind of settle out and we can sort of come up and see the sky again. It's just so, but I'm just not willing to wait that, because I may not last that long. My age, my God.
Yeah, I know it is amazing, the little things you kind of take for granted now, like going out to dinner is like an outing, it feels like a day trip, like you look forward to it all week. So yeah, it's amazing how life has changed. So maybe that's going to be one of them, but what are your 5 favorite things right now? Anything?
Well, yeah, happily, probably my favorite thing is my own home and my home life. I'm just so blessed with that. My home is something that is very close to what you might have imagined as being your ideal home in your whole life, and I'm there. The next thing would be St. Luke's, the church, the choir, the music. I joined the choir in October of '65. Can't imagine wanting to be somewhere else. And it's not like I'm not being in the organ world, not like I haven't been exposed to other fine music and other fine churches, but they're not like St. Luke's. They just aren't. And of course, next, I love travel as a favorite thing. So far, I've been on 25 cruises and I've visited 53 countries.
Wow.
And I'm not ready to quit yet. And the next favorite thing is the organ. Absolutely. I am maybe at my happiest when I'm at the console. It's just amazing. And finally, dining out. I love eating out. Good meal with good friends beats almost any other form of entertainment. I'm talking shows, concerts, anything. A good meal with good friends just about beats it all.
I know.
And those are my 5 favorite things.
That's a great list. That's variety, and that's great. So that means that we're at the best part of this interview. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's been a great interview. But one of my favorite things that we do is our rapid fire round. So I'm going to set my timer here for 1 minute. You can take your deep breath, and then we're going to jump in, get my questions here. Are you nervous? I know people always get so nervous about this.
No one knows nervous like the first Sunday you play at St. Luke's.
Yeah, it's true.
I can remember my foot on the expression pedal just trembling. So, I'm up for it. Let's put it that way.
No,
I'm not freaking out. I'm not freaking out over it.
Oh, that's so funny, though. I love that. Okay, well, here we go. Got my timer set for 1 minute. And here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Travel by air or by sea?
Yes.
Which?
Yes. Anyway.
What color is your toothbrush?
Get me out of here.
What color is your toothbrush?
Bronze.
Cadillac or Lexus?
Lexus.
Singing or playing?
Meaning like organ. Probably playing the organ, yeah.
Steak or seafood?
Seafood.
Cavity filling or root canal?
Root canal.
Prelude or postlude?
Prelude.
England
Nobody
or France?
Postlude.
England or France?
England.
Holy, 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 or For All the Saints?
For All the Saints.
Red or white wine?
Yes.
John or Charles Wesley?
John.
Introvert or extrovert?
Me, I've evolved more into an extrovert than I used to be. So now I'm an extrovert, but younger I was much more introverted.
Foray or Duraflay?
Duraflay.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Stop. Okay, not too bad. I think you got 15 out of 20. And I probably should have given you an extra second because I tripped you up with the travel by air or sea. You just want to get out. Okay, so our last question, as always, I'm looking forward to your answer, is what's one song or piece of music you'd want viewers to listen to after this?
You know, I don't think I've missed a single one of these episodes, so I had a suspicion this might come along, and there isn't much doubt, at least for me, it's the organ piece. It's the Vierne First Symphony finale.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. You're playing that recently, weren't you?
I've been working on it, but I only get practice time once a week, so I don't get too far, but I'm trying to resurrect it. I once played it in a concert, but you know, it's a big enough deal that it isn't exactly Sunday morning type music.
Yeah, that's a great like Easter prelude or postlude. Yeah, for sure.
It's just, to me, it's just thrilling. And the best recording of it is still available only on the LP, and that's the, I believe it's E Power Biggs.
Oh yeah.
But it's not, you can't get it on CD.
Right.
One of these days they may convert it to CD. And he's not around to play it again. So.
Yeah. I wonder if that's on YouTube. I know a lot of people, upload those old LP recordings.
Oh, you can get recordings of it, but not the. They might have posted that recording. Yeah, that's a possibility. But it's thrilling. It's not especially Frenchily performed, if you know what I mean. But it's very articulate and is more thrilling than many other versions of it that I've heard.
Yeah, that's a great piece. Well, on that note, no pun intended, that's all I have. So Jeff, thanks so much for taking time to chat with us today, and this was fun.
Honored to have been asked. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, you take care, and if I don't talk to you before then, enjoy dinner this weekend. Think of me when you're out.
We'll see you again someday.
Yeah. If anything, on Wednesday for choir rehearsal. So.
Other than on a screen, I mean.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
So, well, you take care, and we will talk soon.
Thanks a bunch.
All right. Bye.